You know what? Every once in a while, I want to read the room, sort of, put my finger to the wind, sort of gauge, exactly what the climate, the vibe might be in here. Are we at a point where it's acceptable, permissible, feasible for a guy like me to bring up the mock drafts that are out? I know there's a little bit of blowback. One or both of you might get a little triggered if there's premature discussion of mock drafts. Are we in the zone now where that's acceptable?
Super Bowl's over, so I think it's officially fair game as the combine inches closer.
We are so
I haven't
close
done
to the
one
combine.
yet, though.
I have done a couple.
A couple?
Just to mess around. Well, because, again, it's so easy.
You've only
on the
sent me
computer.
one.
Oh, you want me to send them all to you? I will say that it's funny. I enjoy the process of messing around on the computer doing them. The actual, getting into the nitty-gritty, it's still a little early for me, but as Dani noted, we are going to be at the combine next week, and I have to say that once we hit the combine, it's kind of like I can't complain about it anymore. Or use the B word about it anymore, which was an issue last week for a couple people. Yeah, another word for complain.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used it last week on the air, and
you did. I forgot about that.
I had a couple people get a little.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, I won't use it anymore.
Okay, a little more PG.
Okay, so NSFW, Darren Urban, Dani Sureck, yours truly, Paulie Podcast. So if you guys end up snagging Daniel Jeremiah, otherwise known as a good get at the combine when you're talking about the draft, he's already done nearly a 180 from Daniel Jeremiah 1.0 to 2.0, which was released earlier today. Just to let you know that he started out Fernando Mendoza, Arvell Reese, Spencer Fano going to the Cardinals at number 3.
This was 1.0?
1.0. As of today, it's Fernando Mendoza, still number 1. Edge David Bailey, number 2. Cardinals still go tackle, but they go Francis Maui Noah out of Miami.
I've seen the Miami kid be mocked to the Cardinals more and more and more.
So there's that. There's also, speaking of mock, let me put the mock into mock for just a moment, especially since he's not here and I don't run the risk of getting punched. Driving over here, I heard Ron Wolfley talk about most of the mock drafts, most of which have the Cardinals taking offensive tackle. Okay? But then he started extolling the virtues of a really deep edge class, as he should. And Wolf, year to year, is prone to have a man crush on a certain player in the draft. Who was the Duke interior offensive lineman a couple of years ago he couldn't stop talking about? Doesn't matter. Now he's all over Reuben Bain Jr. That's his bestie.
Which is funny because I just read somebody saying if David Bailey isn't the first edge off the board, what are we doing here?
Well, there's plenty of debate whether it's Fano or Maui Noah at tackle, whether it's David Bailey or Reuben Bain Jr. as the first edge. That's open to debate. I'm talking more about the position when Wolf, who spent a good 5 minutes waxing poetic with a Shakespearean soliloquy about Reuben Bain Jr., and then finished it up by saying, but I still wouldn't take him ahead of the tackle.
Come on, man.
Well, why not? Wait, what? Do we not forget the hierarchy around here? 1 is quarterback. 2 is get to the quarterback. 3 is protect thy quarterback. Get to the quarterback still supersedes protect thy quarterback.
That's fair. The devil's advocate argument would be not to downplay the importance of a good quarterback. Can't the quarterback only be as good as they can be if they're protected, Paul?
What did Seattle do to Drake May, who was 1 vote shy of being the NFL MVP and certainly did not look like it in Super Bowl 60, right? How did the vaunted undefeated New England Patriots go down at the hands of the New York Giants once upon a time? Hit and harass Tom Brady.
Well, this is the good news, is the Cardinals are in a great spot with the 3rd overall pick and will have options.
Wait a minute. Are you making the argument for those teams that the Giants and Seahawks did a great job rushing the passer, or are you making the argument that those other teams should add better tackles?
Oh, that's a good question.
No, it would be the former instead
of
the latter.
I had a feeling.
Yeah,
but still.
But you're right. But when your rookie left tackle gives up 14 pressures in the Super Bowl, and we'll see how Will Campbell mentally recovers from that going into next season.
We don't know because he didn't speak to the media after
He did the
game.
next day.
Oh, he did the next day?
He apologized, and he basically said, I was not in a mental headspace to be able to talk. I take full advantage of all the
Okay, good for him. I did not see that.
Accountability. And again, one of the things I liked about the Will Campbell thing is that Mike Vrabel came out and said, we're not moving him. A lot of people said he would make a better guard with his shorter arms. We're not moving him to guard. We're not moving him to tight end. We're not moving him to the quarterback. He's staying at tackle. And one of the things I thought it was interesting, especially as we go into draft season, that's SZN, I noticed that there was a lot of offensive line gurus online that basically were saying this idea that if you have short arms, you can't be a successful tackle is a bunch of hooey, basically saying...
Was that A.Q. Shipley? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Wow. They were basically saying it's about the technique you use. And if you're trying to use a technique that a longer armed tackle would make and you have short arms, then that's on you. But there are techniques you can use to be very effective as a tackle, even if you have shorter arms. And that's what Will Campbell needs to do, and that's what other guys should do. And it had to do with basically closing the space quicker between you and the edge rusher and all this stuff. But
was it us who had the conversation? Was the last time you saw a tackle have that poor a game? And the only one I could think of was Taylor Lewan, season opener 2021 against Chandler Jones, who had 5 sacks.
That wasn't the conversation we had after the Super Bowl, but I do know that you have used that as you like throwing Taylor Lewan under the bus. I do know that.
Well, and you know what?
Lindsey Vaughn,
honestly,
Taylor Lewan.
I'll echo what the Cardinals sideline said in real time. Why are they not giving him more help?
He was probably saying the same thing. Taylor Lewan, fellow Chaparral graduate.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd mention that.
So if you want a quick review of where we are, Mel Kiper 1.0 has the Cardinals going Maui Noah at number 3. I gave you Daniel Jeremiah. Pro Football Focus just came out. David Bailey, Texas Tech. The only other mock draft I've seen having the Cardinals go edge at 3.
For the Cardinals.
For the Cardinals.
Who does PFF have going to, Bain?
I don't have that in front of me. I'm sorry.
See, I just did the lawyer thing.
They have a 3-round though. If you want, they have the Cardinals taking the ASU offensive tackle, whose name I used to be able to pronounce, and now I can't.
Max I.
Exactly. Thank you, Darren. 6'6", 330.
I'm an anchor.
He was a star.
I think that's what his last name. I'm an anchor.
Very close. He was a star at the Senior Bowl. Allowed 0 sacks apparently last year for ASU.
He seems to be going up the draft board real quick. From what I've seen, I'm not so sure he makes it to the Cardinals' second-round pick.
And then here's an intriguing one, Pro Football Focus, because, of course, you have to have a three-round mock here in mid-February. Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback at number 65.
Garrett Nussmeier, his dad was a position coach with the Dallas Cowboys when I was there in Dallas, actually.
Doug.
So he was the Senior Bowl MVP. Let's not put too much stock into the Senior Bowl. Let's hesitate a little bit on that one. I mean,
okay, so Taylor Lewan, Lindsey Vaughn, Garrett Nussmeier.
As I move
Your
along
list
quickly,
is growing, Paul.
Bucky Brooks, Spencer Fano to the Cardinals, number 3 overall. Same with Eric Edholm, Lance Zierlein, Chad Reuter, Francis Maui Noah, Cynthia Freeland 1.0, Reuben Bain Jr. to the Cardinals. So there you go. There's a quick review of where it's at. Now, the two of you are heading to the Combine. How much off-the-record stuff do you guys glean? I've never been, and I'm just curious, how much discussion, how many juicy tidbits are just spoken and uttered and speculated upon that, fine journalists such as yourself, it'll never make it into print?
I wouldn't say there's a whole lot necessarily that comes flowing. Especially these days. I think it was funny when I first started going to the Combine, almost every coach or GM, or maybe both, would end up doing their 15 minutes on the podium, and then they'd hold a scrum for local media, and that a lot of them don't do that anymore. That would include your Arizona Cardinal people, and that's fine, but it tends to dry up a little bit now. I don't know, Dani, if you ever got to go to the Combine in your Dallas days, but I know Jerry Jones meets with those guys.
I did actually go to the Combine once with the Cowboys, but I was going there for a documentary-style piece on the scouting department, and so we were not there with local media because Jerry Jones, he has his big bus that has the the star wrapped around and he takes him to a restaurant and, they're in a private room and having that conversation.
One of the things I've noticed, Paul, more than, at least in the circles that I'm running these days, is at the combine, what you really get, it goes back to those mock drafts you're just talking about. I feel like after the combine, and it's not because of the workouts, it's more because everybody got together and was finally talking about this stuff. I think you get a better sense of where guys are going to land. I think all the mock drafts up until this point, there's a lot of dart throwing. And it's certainly nobody's mocks are on target. And there's still a lot of conversations within the teams that happen after the combine. But I think you get a better idea of where the prospects properly slot. Like maybe you have a guy right now in the top of the second round and you get back from the combine and you're getting, that guy's probably going to go middle of the first round somewhere, something like that.
The meetings also play a large role. Someone like Garrett Williams sticks out of, sure, anybody can watch tape and see what he's capable of on the field, but how many times did we hear that he was the last player that this front office and coaching staff was interviewing, and he left such an impact on them that they would go on to draft him, especially with his injury history in college. I mean, sure, you talk to national or other local media members and hear some things, but again, it's for what we do and who I feel like we talk to. It's not so much of, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what I heard, especially because it's ever changing. And Darren's right, so much is going to change by the time we land back in Phoenix after Indy.
And I will say this, and this goes almost without saying, which is why I'm saying it, of course. There is no question that one of the biggest storylines for the whole entire NFL is what might happen with Kyler Murray and however that might play out, whether he stays here, whether he doesn't stay here. I'm sure that that's going to be a topic of conversation all over the place.
I'm guessing the two of you are going to be tapped on the shoulder more than once by fellow media colleagues and asked about the Kyler Murray situation and what your sense is and the vibe is.
Just don't surprise me, Paul. Right. I might swing back. What? Who's tapping me on the shoulder here?
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that the combine
could
be
that
contentious.
Sneaking up on people. That's
all right.
just.
Well, now that we know that the shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's is $19.95, is that in the budget, Darren?
One of these times when we start getting editing for this fine thing where we can edit in stuff, I will go ahead and play the Dani clip of trying shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's for the first time.
It's good. I love a little spice.
You get a couple shrimp cocktails into Darren, look out. It's like taking the lock off a cage. All of a sudden he's swinging. You never know.
That's okay. You can share a video of us eating shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's, but don't share any video of us at Loft Miller's.
Yes, this is a good call.
Oh, boy. Okay. Interesting.
Segue off of that, Paul.
Okay. Let's see here. Well, that is a good one. I will say this. I could use a belt or two after reading through all the QB speculation that's out there. Anything and everything is being speculated upon when it comes to Kyler Murray and whether there's going to be a potential trade. And if so, what might they get in return? And if not a trade, because of camp ramifications, is there a separation?
Is there any chance Tua becomes a bigger story than Kyler? What happens with Tua?
See, to me, I look at Tua and I see it as much less likely the Dolphins can move off Tua.
Isn't it a lot more difficult from a financial standpoint than the Cardinal situation?
Yes,
from what I've read?
It is more difficult, and the Dolphins just cut a bunch of people because right now they're dealing with the cap and being there was probably, I think I looked, there was maybe 10 teams that were scheduled to be over the cap by the time we got to the new league year in mid-March. So there are teams that are going to have to do some work just to get to that point. So yes, I agree with that. But clearly that's the other thing too is while it's more difficult, I think what we found with teams, and we saw it with the Broncos for sure, is like if you really want to move off somebody, usually money's not or cap. I shouldn't say money. Cap ramifications aren't.
Right.
Money is never the issue because, quite frankly, all these teams have plenty of money, and we're usually not talking about actual cash outlay. We're talking about how the cap is impacted when you speed up these contracts when they're cut before they're over.
There's a lot of different angles and takes you see. A popular one as well. The Seahawks got a third-round pick out of the Raiders for Geno Smith. Totally different contract situation, though. Totally different. as the Raiders just struck a new deal with Geno Smith, and okay, they sent a third rounder to the Seahawks. What was intriguing, and it sort of got buried, and rightfully so, because it happened early on Super Bowl Sunday. Both Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport sent out tweets. And if you go back, I'm looking at it right here, Schefter. As the Miami Dolphins and Arizona Cardinals navigate their future with new head coaches, both teams would like to be able to find trade partners for their starting quarterbacks. Ian Rappaport. Cardinals are likely to move on from Kyler Murray. Best case scenario, becomes a free agent. So you have these similar but conflicting reports. Even now, at this point, Bill Barnwell from ESPN has weighed in. He has possible trade partners. And, of course, you think mock drafts are speculation. Try and find potential trades.
Oh, yeah.
Well, based on the current contract for Murray is, from what I have read from national reporters, is if there's going to be a trade, the Cardinals might have to pay for a good amount of the contract that he and the money that he's guaranteed, because it's a hefty sum. So that is a big reason why some people are saying, yes, if you can find the right trade partner, whether that's Cardinals getting players or picks or whatever it is they're getting, maybe the Cardinals are still paying some of that contract versus releasing Kyler Murray. Now, as we record this, it's February 17th. The new league year starts March 11th. So by March 16th, if Murray's on the roster, he's guaranteed nearly $20 million of his 2027 contract. So where things stand, there's a very, very good chance that a month from today, when we record this podcast, a decision will have been made.
Look, I'm the farthest thing from a capologist, #NoMath. But if I'm to believe all the reports, trading Kyler triggers a much lesser dead money cap hit than cutting Kyler.
Correct, because if you traded him, as it stands, the new team would basically absorb the contract as it was, and there's much less of lingering signing bonus cap hit as opposed to the rest of it, which would all accelerate onto the Cardinals timeline if they just had to release him. So yeah, beyond any kind of compensation, just being able to deal him rather than releasing him makes a difference. But again, all these things have to be figured out. Like, one of the things that I'm sure has got to be going through the head, and this has come up too, like, what are your avenues if you don't have Kyler Murray as opposed to if you do have Kyler Murray? Those are all the things. It's funny, you talk about mock drafts or mock trades or mock podcasts. I would think, there's a certain element of, like, if you're a lawyer and you're about to go to trial, you better figure out every possible way that this question could be answered so you don't get caught unawares. You're basically doing a choose your own adventure with every kind of player move like this, especially a big one like a quarterback. We're going to play choose your own adventure at quarterback. Like, what happens if we keep the current quarterback? What happens if we trade him? What is out there? What could happen? What branches is off of that? Like, what else? What other teams are in the mix?
Right, and a lot of teams have been ruled out as potential suitors because they have cap issues. They're right against the cap. Well, a lot can be done to create cap room, as the Miami Dolphins are proving right now. So
one of the things you can't say as an NFL team these days, I don't care who it is, even if you're over the cap at this point, you can't make the argument that we can't do something because of cap room. You always can do something because of cap room. If you're not doing it and you're limited in a cap room, it's because you've decided other players or decisions are more important than whatever the one you're talking about. But every team can make something happen cap-wise if they want.
All right, so to recap, according to Darren, there's mock drafts, mock trades, mock podcasts. What about podcasts that mock? Which brings us to Dani. Getting cultured. Dani, we'll segue to you.
Getting cultured with Dani. It is not just directed at Paul.
Am I the default uncultured Philistine around here?
Yes.
You got me very excited now.
I am on social media and consume more pop culture than both of you combined.
I think I'm being unfairly profiled, but go ahead.
Let's go. Happy New Year to you both.
Wait, what?
The Chinese New Year.
Okay. I thought you just Seinfelded us. Or,
No.
I thought it was like March 15th
Yeah, I
here, the
was
new
gonna
league
say.
year. I mean,
No,
what?
it's the Chinese New Year today.
Okay.
We are officially in the 7th zodiac animal of 12 in the cycle.
Oh, yeah.
We are done with Year of the Snake, so we have shed everything we
It's
needed
the
to
pigeon.
shed.
It's the pigeon.
It is
7th.
Year of the Horse.
Dang.
So recent years, if you were born during these years, right, you are considered the horse. 1954, 1966, 78, 90, 2002, 2014, and 2026. I was born year of the dog.
You mean like the centaur? What do you mean the horse? What
No,
are we
just
talking?
your,
Just
just
a
your
horse. You don't
zodiac
get any
animal.
human.
So,
Okay,
and
all right.
then you start tying
Are
in
you the
right
year of the
zodiac
horse,
signs.
Paul?
So the horse.
He's not saying.
The horse represents confidence and responsibility, and in general, for most people, this should be a year for optimism and opportunity to be bold and take risks.
I'm definitely not a horse then.
You were not born in a horse year?
Well, I'm definitely not an optimist. I generally look at life as half empty. I just do.
Yeah, light the lamp. No one's surprised here on Cardinals Underground.
If only I could get.
And if you're surprised as a listener, you have not been listening long enough.
I got to talk to the guys in engineering. I need a light that's only half lit. I just need a half lit light for
That's for
Darren.
Darren.
That's what I need.
Darren's coffee cup is half empty right now. This is kind of a sadder update, but there have been a lot of Hollywood deaths and celebrity deaths as of late. I'm sure you guys have seen Catherine O'Hara from Schitt's
Yeah.
Creek, Home Alone, Beetlejuice, Robert Duvall from The
Yeah.
Godfather, To Kill a Mockingbird, James Vanderbeek, Dawson's Creek and Varsity Blues, and as of Tuesday, Reverend Jesse Jackson, the civil rights activist.
So, piece of advice: never go to a live comedy show and sit right next to the stage. Back in the day, my wife and I were dating, and she bought me like a brand new shirt to go out on the Sunset Strip and whatever the comedy club is, the famous we sat right next to, and Jay Moore was the marquee guy. But one of the early acts decided that my shirt was a ripoff from Dawson's Creek, the TV show.
Was it?
And every single comedian thereafter worked me into his bit on the fly and
Yes.
called me Dawson's Creek.
What did the
That
shirt
is
look
awesome.
Like? Wait, describe the
That's
shirt.
way better than Pauly Pigskin.
It was some sort of long sleeve collar deal, sort of, I don't know, quarter zip, whatever. I don't
photos.
know.
We need photos.
And last on my list, and
It's
this
not
is
easy being an idiot. Go ahead.
Ooh, I hope that was clean. I hope I was not interrupting that. This one is for you, Darren.
Yes.
Kevin Durant burner accounts.
Yes.
Speculation, she says with air quotes.
Oh, boy.
So Kevin Durant, former Phoenix Sun, was caught trash talking both current and former teammates through Twitter messages. So not-
Allegedly.
Allegedly, right? And there's some burner account that's been active since 2019, and people are starting to piece the pieces together and how similar these messages are to some of his public tweets. It's not his picture, it's not his name, but there was one comment in these messages that described Devin Booker and former head coach Frank Vogel as, quote, two dictators when talking about the Suns. And Darren, you don't look surprised.
No.
Yeah.
As I heard somebody else say this morning, if it was, say, Devin Booker and they're talking about this, I'm like, oh, no way. And then you hear Kevin Durant's name and you're like, yeah,
That tracks.
probably.
How many different locker rooms has he been in? How many different sets of teammates and head coaches has Kevin Durant had?
Quite a bit.
And what's the one constant? Okay.
Well, you both have been cultured. You're welcome.
Sounds like the one constant is the burner account, honestly.
Speculation,
okay,
Paul.
there you go.
Supposedly.
Allegedly.
All right. What's amazing, too, is Durant actually is really good with the media.
Yeah, he's great with the media.
I mean, he's excellent. As much as he, well, I don't know if he necessarily bags on the media, on social media as much as fans. And
It depends on,
and the
I mean,
bloggers.
a lot
and
of time it's that. But I mean, if there's a take from a media member that he does not approve of, he will definitely say something, or else sick his stands on him.
That's my segue, because a press conference has been called between the Cardinals' new coordinators and the media. So let's break this down. Here we go.
You're not saying any of them have burner accounts, are you?
I don't know.
Okay.
Not even know, but I don't know.
Have at it. Launch the I-team and give us an investigation. We'll find out.
Yeah, Paul's done investigating me and my picks, so he's got time.
Nathaniel Hackett, age 46, his fifth OC gig. Nick Rallis, who amazingly is still only 32 years of age, going to be his fourth season as the Cardinals' defensive coordinator. And then new special teams coordinator, Michael Gobriel, age 37, spent the past 2 years as a Giants special teams coordinator, and the 3 years before that as a Jets assistant special teams coordinator. Hopefully there's a spot in the press conference where I can ask a potentially embarrassing question, and it would go something like this. Coach, did Larry David ever reach out to you at any point? Because Larry David has made it known every year for the past 5 to 10 years that he could easily coach the Jets special teams.
Oh, yeah, I have noticed. I have heard that.
I haven't heard that.
Yes.
And
We run in different circles.
Larry David still claims that he called the Jets GM before the 2018 draft and implored him to take Lamar Jackson. Still claims he did.
Pretty good.
So I'm wondering if Coach Gabriel ever heard from Larry David. That's an aside, to say the least. What stands out about the three coordinators? Who wants to bad lead off here?
I mean, clearly, I think, now, number one, the name of Nathaniel Hackett was out there for a week or so before it officially got announced. We can kind of double back to that. Obviously, the Nick Rallis thing, I don't want to say it's a surprise. He was in the mix from jump. I think his name was thrown out there. Mike LaFleur knows a lot about Nick Rallis and going against his defense. And one of the first things I think of is clearly we heard the name Gus Bradley early. He ended up going elsewhere. The one thing I did think of was okay, you've got a guy who at least has been a defensive coordinator, and a lot of the other guys he was talking to post Gus Bradley have not had that experience. And I was telling Robert before the podcast, I'm it's interesting to me that the Raiders essentially ended up doing what the Cardinals did in 23. They hired a first-time head coach who's younger, and he hired two first-time coordinators that and actually the Raiders also promoted from within. The Raiders talked to a bunch of people on the outside, and they ended up promoting somebody on the previous staff. So I'll be interested to see the parallels of how the Raiders and the Cardinals kind of go with these new staffs now.
So with Nick Rallis, known versus unknown, proven versus unproven.
Sure feels that way.
When you're looking at, and look, if the Cardinals' new head coach came from the AFC North, then I probably feel less confident about it than someone who's competed against Nick Rallis' defense twice a year for 3 years. He knows that scheme and that coordinator really well. McVay and Mike LaFleur have had to deal with Matthew Stafford. And little anecdotal information, Matthew Stafford 2 years ago, 2024, did not throw a touchdown pass against the Cardinals defense. And when he spoke to the media about how much he respected the scheme and how it kept a quarterback honest. And then you had Mike LaFleur telling the story going into the Week 14 game that Stafford walked into the office to start the week of prep and said, you know what? This defense, this team is better than the record. I'm guessing that went a long way.
Even though it's not somebody new in the building, I'm still intrigued by this hiring, so to say, of retaining Nick Rallis as the DC. The defense was riddled with injuries last year. And while that might not be an excuse because every team deals with injuries, it made an impact. And having seen the progression from the first year to the second year with Rallis as DC, it makes sense when you take that into consideration of where things kind of fell out in the third year. I'm intrigued because we have seen a lot of fight. We've seen good things from a Rallis defense, especially those first 2 years. But I'm intrigued because I'm also curious to see what adjustments he makes. Number one, he no longer has a defensive-minded head coach. So it's not to say that Rallis didn't have a heavy hand in the defense, but he's now the defensive guy on that side of the building. And not to mention what was brought up by both the owner and the general manager in their joint press conference when they announced firing Jonathan Gannon was losing close games, which doesn't just fall on one side of the team, but a lot of that was the defense late in games early on in the season. And the second thing that was mentioned by Michael Bidwell and Monty Austinfort was player development. And with such a young team, especially young defense, I'll be curious to see what kind of progression or changes are made in that area that have been called out by the two top dogs in this building.
I mean, there was that stretch where they lost 7 games by 4 points or fewer. They had 3 straight walk-off losses. fairly low-scoring walk-off losses. But then there's also the trend, to Dani's point, you lost Mack Wilson Sr., and you didn't win another game. And I liken it, in hindsight more than ever, what the Bengals offense looks like without Joe Burrow. It's kind of like what the Cardinals defense looked like without their quarterback, Mack Wilson Sr. That's how vital he was in so many ways. One of us going into training camp last year was touting the Titanic position battle at middle linebacker, except it wasn't. It was already decided on day one because that's how much farther ahead Mack Wilson Sr. was than Cody Simon or Owen Pappo or Akeem Davis-Gaither.
It's all right.
And so you can't win them all. But it was a realization that Mack Wilson Sr. was that much farther ahead than the rest of the inside backers in that room. And when you're running a fairly complex scheme, and in some ways you needed to be complex, and because of, to your point, Dani, you had injuries, maybe didn't have quite the same talent that you thought you might have. And so because of that, you thought maybe I have to win more with scheme than just rush 4, drop 7. And all of a sudden, I would say, safe to say, the final 2 months, most offensive coordinators went at your rookie middle linebacker. And if it's a game of matchups, they would go right at him. And it was a learning process. And Lorenzo Alexander detailed how much better Cody Simon was in the last 2 or 3 games. But he learned on the job. And so I think all that was taken into account when trying to assess the job performance of Nick Rallis.
I don't think anybody is going to sit here, least of all Nick Rallis, and sit here and say, we played great defense last year, or it was all injuries, or any of that stuff. He's not going to do that. But I find it hard to believe, and we haven't had a chance to talk to Mike LaFleur. You mentioned the press conference that's upcoming, but this is being recorded ahead of time. I find it hard to believe that as a first-year head coach, you're going to make a decision that you feel is a poor one just because he's already here or because of the stability or whatever. I mean, there's got to be some comfort level there, because why else would you do it? And I'm sorry, I'm not into conspiracy theories with a lot of this stuff. He's a new coach. He's going to have a chance to put together his own staff. We just saw it with Jonathan Gannon. Like, if you had questions about whether a guy could get his own staff, Gannon went super young and got his guys in as coordinators, and it was. So I trust that LaFleur was getting the guys that he wanted to get of who were available. And in this case, it happens to be Nick Rallis, and we will see how that plays out.
And based on the quote that was issued from Mike LaFleur on Nick Rallis, quote, I've had the chance to meet with him and pick his brain over the last couple of weeks, and I'm even more impressed than I was before. So I'm guessing there was a lot of conversation. There was a deep dive into the performance of the defense, a deep dive into the scheme, a projection forward. What would you run? Well, what do you like to run? Are we, is 1 + 1 going to equal 3 here when the head coach has an opinion as to what sort of defenses he are the toughest to go against from his experience, and what are you planning to run? Because Mike LaFleur in his opening press conference made it known that he works with coaches on the defensive side of the ball, and they do try and help each other in that regard.
I don't expect to see a complete change of how the defense is run. Maybe certain parts of the scheme, sure, but for the most part, the foundation and the personnel is set. You're not going to be able to completely change everybody on one side of the ball, even if you're going to make moves in free agency or the draft. So I can't imagine that the Cardinals are going to change to a 4-3 and they're not going to use a heavy rotation, because when you look at the players that are on this roster, that's what they were brought here to do. Now, again, not to say that the defense is going to look the exact same. I'm not sitting here in the middle of February expecting to see something completely different than what we have seen the last 3 years.
By the way, does Darren get some sort of award for the poll,
Yes.
for the poll of the week? I kind of pasted this line from your story, azcardinals.com. The last time a new Cardinals head coach kept on the defensive coordinator with their previous staff, it worked out okay. Clancy Pendergast, hired by Dennis Green, was DC when Ken Wisenhunt led the Cardinals to the Super Bowl.
I actually had a commenter basically threaten me over that line.
Ooh. Speaking of burner accounts.
Because?
Apparently he was upset that I would make such a parallel. I don't know.
It's just a reference to the last time there was a certain occurrence.
There's some people out there.
It's Kevin Durant's burner account.
That's good.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
I mean, and you remember that team, Paul. Like,
sure.
Now, again, part of it was because when Ken Wisenhunt came in, you had a defense that had a lot of its pieces in place. And, for whatever reason, Ken Wisenhunt, because I don't remember back then, like, he made the decision to stick with Clancy Pendergast, and he was there. He was there through the Super Bowl.
Yes, he was. Okay. All right, now, so you have Nick Rallis, age 32. Then you have Nathaniel Hackett, age 46, his fifth OC gig.
There's all these people are younger than us, Paul.
That 2000, what year was it? He was the head coach of Denver, 22. 15
Sorry, I didn't mean
games.
to throw you.
I did. I lost my spot. Here's my question on Nathaniel Hackett. Is he the new Jeff Rodgers in terms of the game situation assistant who's going to be in the hip pocket of Mike LaFleur? Because last time, if you want to poll, the last time that the Cardinals had a head coach calling plays, Cliff Kingsbury, and Jeff Rodgers was his shadow on the sideline. Anytime there was a big game situation decision to be made, time on the clock, exercise a timeout, go for two, those sort of things. Cliff is immersed in the play sheet. He's calling the offense. Boom. He would have his consigliere, Robert Duvall, right next to him, and he would confer, and they would make a joint decision. And I'm wondering if Nathaniel Hackett, as a former head coach and a guy who's had plenty of experience in the league, would be that guy, especially for a first-time head coach who's going to be calling plays.
I think there's a good chance of that. I wouldn't, again, until the balance of the coaching staff is named, I'm not ruling out there could be somebody else who's a veteran coach that could end up being around. So we'll kind of see where that plays out. But yeah, if I'm Mike LaFleur and I'm calling plays, especially on offense, that makes a lot of sense to have your offensive coordinator as somebody who might play that role.
Well, we know it won't be Cliff Kingsbury because he's taking some mysterious role with the Rams offensive staff. That came out since we recorded last.
Wow. Has it been that long already? Goodness.
Well, it was a long we didn't have work for Friday or Monday, so it's been a long time since we've been
yourself,
in the office.
Dani.
The office was closed.
The office was
Friday
closed.
and Monday.
I am not denying that.
Last time he was in L.A., he sort of had a mysterious role. He was a consultant to Lincoln Riley with USC, so okay. How about Michael Gobriel, the special teams coordinator? We already covered that a little bit. He's overcome his alma mater as a former UCLA defensive end, and so it's good to see him succeed and overcome the odds despite his
tell him that.
college experience.
That would be quite the first impression.
No, it's amazing how much of a fake tough guy I am here with Wolf and some of these other comments about alma maters here in the sanctity and security of the radio studio. I did enjoy his background though, looking that he went from what was he, the special teams coordinator at Hawaii to Washington State. So in one fell swoop, you go from Honolulu to Pullman.
Oh, that's tough.
Hashtag ouch.
Speaking of Berkeley, Paul, like, how do you feel like I went through it with the great Jaden Daniels? How are you looking at Fernando Mendoza these days?
I'm trying to own it. I'm trying to claim him. It's not going over real well. I can't even convince myself that I'm able to claim him the 1 year he came in.
I'll be honest, I didn't know about him at all until he started doing things in Indiana.
I'll just tell you real quick, let's see here in 20 seconds or less, as someone who does watch every Cal Golden Bear football game, that season started out with anemic, horrific offense, including like a 14-12 loss to Auburn, and we couldn't generate any. And now they got to the third quarterback, and they pull this third stringer. He comes into the game, this tall, skinny kid, and starts throwing darts all over the yard. And I get up off the couch. Well, where'd this kid come from? Why didn't this kid start from day one? It was Fernando Mendoza. And then he finished out the rest of the year, and they made a bowl game. And before the bowl game was played, he transferred. He got poached by Indiana and Kurt Signetti.
Well, why wouldn't you just go to Indiana? I mean, that's a football powerhouse.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Well, probably because even Kurt Signetti's headset, which fetched $112,000.
Yeah, that's paying for someone's NIL deal.
Is making more than the Cal quarterback. So it's
Paul,
dollars and cents
you have to
involved.
admit, with Steve Bartkowski and Aaron Rodgers, you still have the lead, I think.
Jared Goff.
On Indiana.
Yeah. There you go. We do quarterbacks,
Paul, you should have put more into Fernando Mendoza's NIL deal to keep him at Cal.
Well, no, that's not my responsibility. That's Lorenzo Alexander, fine Cal alum, who has it's his responsibility. So, all right. So there's the coordinators. There's the press conference that's coming up. do these hires mean anything for the roster? I don't want to go all existential here or anything, but do these particular hires say anything about the roster that's about to be constructed or fine-tuned?
To a certain extent. The Hackett hire as OC, not so much as LaFleur as the head coach, because LaFleur is calling plays. This is going to be his offense. Not to say that Hackett won't have a role and isn't going to help the offense progress by any means, but I don't see that hire as something that's going to affect mostly free agency. If that's where you're really talking about of players maybe wanting to come here or how they're going to configure things. The foundation has been set for this roster. I mean, it was 3 years ago when Ossenfort was making the decisions of who is the right fit on and off the field. So that foundation is there. So I don't expect to see an insane amount of turnover. I mean, that's what we heard from Micah Bidwell. He's not looking for this to be some sort of multi-year turnover. He's looking for something very quick. So I don't expect a lot of massive roster turnover. I'm sure those were conversations with all of these interviews of this is who we have. How do you see us creating success? I do think the Nick Rallis retention is very interesting. If there is a defensive free agent, whether or not he felt strongly one way or the other could absolutely factor in if he has multiple options, whether or not Arizona is the landing spot.
I will say, I'm guessing, I'm surmising, speculating that in hiring newcomers, there was even more emphasis than ever on player development, on teaching, on finding position coaches who they feel like really know their craft and really can teach it at a high level, especially to young players.
So here's my question on that, because it's been brought up by a couple people to me, and it's a fair question. And I'll be honest, I don't know the newer coaches or whatever. But if we're talking about teaching coaches, is it possible that you come out ahead if you hire somebody from college rather than the pros for that part of it?
Absolutely. Not that the Cardinals haven't hired some college coaches over recent history.
People keep talking about that. I'm like,
absolutely. I mean, reportedly there's a couple of position coaches coming from the U, from Miami. Well, if there's a track record of year after year of 3-star recruits who end up being first, second, third round draft picks, right? If the development is there, taking these young players and turning them into highly drafted professionals, and there's a long track record, then to your point, Darren, yes, I would say that's something that, in particular, probably got Monty Ossenfort's attention. If he is stressing more than ever player development, and that's one of the reasons you've seen a significant amount of change this offseason, then yes, you're going to put an emphasis on the new coaches that come in. And look, just like players know players, coaches know coaches. They know in the industry who has that reputation for really developing players, getting the most out of that talent, establishing that foundation of fundamentals. So I'm just guessing every single hire has that as one of the strengths on their resume, at least in terms of reputation and what they're known for around the industry. Now, we'll see. It's always and ultimately up to the player, the talent, the work they want to put in, how they develop. And like that's one thing about Michael Wilson that I don't know if you guys noticed, but like every single person I talked to on and off the record about Michael Wilson raved about his work ethic.
Yep.
He is top 3 in that locker room in terms of effort invested, commitment made to getting better, identifying things every offseason, whether he thought he was too much of a body catcher as a rookie, to refining his routes, to blocking, which got him on the field right away as a rookie, all the above. So, ultimately, and I think if nothing else, the enthusiasm that you're going to get with a 38-year-old head coach in Mike LaFleur, soon to be 39, and a 37-year-old special teams coordinator who's known for his infectious energy, hopefully it has a bit of a trickle-down effect.
I wonder if they're going to listen to Getting Cultured. Since they're so young, they're already cultured, probably.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's right. They don't need to be coached up like a couple old heads over here. Wasn't that the comment about Devin Booker? His team won the All-Star game.
That was
a bunch of early 20-somethings and 29-year-old
D-Book.
D-Book.
For Book.
And they called him, it was like the youngins and the old head.
Ed Hold, yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough deal. Okay. It's one of the few things we can relate to Devin Booker about. That's,
No.
That's not even that?
He also likes cars.
That's true.
Yeah, you relate to him more about the car thing.
You guys are actually similar in more ways than one, Paul.
Yeah, let's just say his cars cost a lot more to register than my cars. Let's just put it that way. Franchise tags. Speaking of building this roster, do I really want to know the answer to this? I try not to get into the weeds of the franchise tag. Can you just summarize it, someone? Because this is where I tend to sort of nod off.
Are you talking about in general or with the Cardinals?
Well, I mean, what are we thinking here?
We're not thinking anything for the Cardinals. Cardinals aren't going to use a franchise tag. Franchise tags are used for unrestricted free agents to be. I'm not going to get into all the details, but if you tag a guy, usually the tag that's used the most is an average of the top 10 salaries at that position from the previous year. And then that's what the guy's salary is if he signs his tender offer, and then it's a 1-year contract. And basically, if you sign as a free agent, the team that signs you away would have to give up 2 first-round picks. So basically, it freezes the player in place. But if a guy is tagged and he doesn't sign his contract, he's not under contract either. So he doesn't need to show up to anything. He could sit out in training camp, all these things. Oftentimes it's a game of chicken because the player is going to want a long-term deal and be a free agent, and the team doesn't want to let him be that way.
Why is it seemingly used less than ever these days?
I think there's a couple reasons for that. I think because of salaries. I think the tag is for a lot of players, it's grown more than they want to pay. I think most teams of the guys they really, really want to keep are smart enough to extend them before they get to free agency. So a lot of the guys that hit unrestricted free agency these days, the vast majority of them are that next level down, like maybe not the absolute, they could be a core piece, but they're not like, oh my God, like if we lost them, we're all going to heck. So I think that's a big part of it. So you're having, as a team, you're battling whether it's where, last year is a great example. The Bengals tagged T. Higgins. Now, T. Higgins is a very good wide receiver, but he's not even the best receiver on that team. And you're having to pay him like he's one of the best 10 receivers in the league when he's not. Those are the things you got to figure out. Now, they worked out a long-term deal with him. It worked out okay. The times the Cardinals have used it, usually it's a placeholder to buy a little time to get the extension. They did it with, I think they did it with Trey. No, I think they signed Trey before they got to the tag. But, like, I remember they did it with, I want to say they did it with Calais once. And it wasn't like they did it with Calais and he had his extension by May. They tagged him in March. He extended by May. So it just bought them a few weeks to make sure he didn't go to the market. But for the most part, that's what it's about.
So in 2025, Trey McBride got a contract extension, Budda Baker, James Conner. I'm forgetting one other player along the way.
Yelda
and Zaven
Zaven
Collins during training camp.
Yep. Okay, good. So now, between now and the start of this season, Michael Wilson on the
Maybe.
radar?
I mean,
maybe Paris Johnson Jr.
Now, the thing about Paris is because he's a first-round pick, they're probably going to invoke the fifth. They're going to invoke the fifth-year option if he's not extended no matter what. Now, you can still extend him, but because he's a first-round pick, they can make his contract go from 26 to 27, so he still would have 2 years left. So you're buying significant time. Now, I'm guessing Paris is going to push pretty hard for an extension this offseason. I would think you'd want to get Michael Wilson under an extension because you don't want to go into next year thinking he could be a free agent and having to tag him. So those are the two guys that automatically come into my head immediately. Now there's other guys, like what happens with Jalen Thompson. I think it felt like Jalen is good with what ended up happening. If he hits the open market, fine, whatever. I don't know what the team is planning on it, but we know that they drafted Taylor Demerson to play safety. They've got some other guys, Garrett Williams. They've got a lot of defensive backs at this point where if they needed to move and shift around, if Jalen Thompson wasn't around, they can do that.
Mac Wilson Sr. signed a 3-year deal, free agency 2024. So he's going into a contract year.
Yes.
I would say he's on the radar.
I
would say.
Doubt it. But again, part of your issue right now, and this is why the Kyler piece is such a big domino, because it's funny. Like, I think right now, the Cardinals are scheduled to have around $40 million in cap space. Well, in today's day and age, that cap space gets eaten up pretty quickly. If you sign a couple of free agents, and again, you can always move stuff around. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Cap space is not something that stops you from doing something. But I think they'll be smart about stuff, and I think they'll prioritize some stuff. And if, would Mac be now? Would Mac be later? Would Mac be right before training camp? Could Mac be during the season? I think all those things would be on the table.
All right, now I'm going to bring up something that was advanced by NFL.com to start this week. They threw out their notable cut candidates from the AFC and NFC, and there's a lot of players listed. And the Cardinals that have made this list on NFL.com, James Conner, and then Dalvin Tomlinson or Bilal Nichols. Those are the three players that appear on NFL.com as potential cut candidates. James Conner, going to turn 31 in May, would free up about $7.5 million if released this offseason, according to their math. And then you have Bilal Nichols, after missing all the games the last couple of years, and then Dalvin Tomlinson, which would create anywhere from $10 to $14.5 million as a post-June 1st designation.
There's a lot of question marks, and running back is an interesting room because, we know what James Conner can be and is to this team, to this offense. He is the heart and soul. We talked about that majority of last season because he missed most of last year with that gnarly ankle injury, and how Trey McBride was stepping up to be that sort of player on the offense. What is he going to look like coming back from that kind of injury? There are reports that the Cardinals have made a change at running backs for a position coach. So what will that coach envision? And then Mike LaFleur and his offense, and what will he envision? And there's also question marks around Trey Benson. This isn't a situation where, Benson is going into year 3 and has really shined in all of his opportunities and has carried the ball a lot of times, because Benson has been pretty significantly injured in his first 2 years. So this isn't a situation where it's so easy to say, you know what, it's time to move on from Conner. Benson is the future. There's still question marks there. Now, there's a handful of some top-notch running back free agents, so that is an option there. When you look into the defense, defensive line is a room that's going to have to be looked at with a fine-tooth comb. That was not a super strength of this defense, and you've got players who could possibly be free agents or retire, like Calais Campbell, who was one of the most effective. You got Walter Nolan III, who got injured at the end of the year. He started the year injured and then ended the year injured. And what is his rehab going to look like? And how early will he be able to play? And how effective will he be? What are you going to get out of someone like Darius Robinson, right? So there are question marks. And if you're going to be looking, it's okay, well, let's look and see, because availability is the best ability. And Bilal Nichols has not been available as an Arizona Cardinal. So there's a lot of decisions that are going to have to come into play. And I think with the defensive line specifically, you're going to have to work essentially backwards of working down the timeline of someone like Nolan and then trying to figure out where you need to fill the pieces.
That's where the Rallis hire becomes most intriguing to me, because oftentimes when you get a new coach, there's the new coordinator, and then I didn't see this as being any kind of necessarily full teardown, but you're going to get player change. You just always do, because of one reason or another. And so I do expect some roster manipulation at this point, but with Rallis still in place, how much does that change how guys are seen?
Yeah, and to Dani's point about Trey Benson, don't know the future of James Conner, but have we seen flashes? Sure. Could he blossom in year 3? Absolutely. But you better have a backup plan. They're better, or 2 or 3. Cardinals ended up using running backs 5 and 6 last year.
Yeah,
so
that to me, that only helps the James Conner argument that you want to keep him around. Also, the fact that he was so good in the transition from Cliff Kingsbury to Jonathan Gannon in terms of like being positive about what was incoming, and he can really help sway a locker room. I wanted to mention real quick, almost sent this over to me, another example franchise tag. They tagged Chandler Jones in 2017, and he only had the tag for like a month, and then they got that extension done. So.
Gotcha. Okay. What do you think? Where does Darren rank in the
Number
power
1.
poll
Is this going to be a good list or a bad list?
of participants to beat in Cardinals Climb? He's
got long legs.
Yep, and
he might be up there.
He's a veteran of the Tillman run since day one of the Tillman event.
He's competitive.
He's very and boom, you're
he
right.
He knows his way around State Farm Stadium.
He's going to take 2 steps at a time. He's got a competitive advantage. That's what's going to happen.
We should record that. And Darren and I
right.
have to go from point A to point B. And how many more steps does it take for me to get there?
That's right. That would be good. Can you have one of the step markers?
Yes.
You both do the same
Speedometer.
distance, but Dani's steps are twice as many as Darren's on the.
I don't think I have that much flexibility anymore.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Darren, are you? Did you enter like the elite or advanced group? Like, is there like a competitive group versus like the novice, recreational
There's
group?
like 3 different trails. I did, I guess, the most advanced trail, but I don't know anything. I don't know where that goes or what exactly it means, but it'll be a good time, and obviously raising money for those with special needs. I think it's a big deal to this organization and to a lot of people. I happened to help MC an event with Kurt Warner last week, and him talking about Treasure House and special needs, and Kurt's he's probably given the speech a million times, but him talking about his son and understanding that when his son got to a certain age, because he has some issues after a childhood injury, that his son couldn't be all he could be living in the house with him and Brenda, and they had to find a way to get him out and to be able to live on his own, to really live the life that he could live, and then creating Treasure House, which is one of the beneficiaries of Cardinals Climb. It's just a fantastic story, and there's so many. We all know like examples of those with special needs, of children, of people we work with. So it's a big deal. It's a big week this week. The Cardinals have the climb on Saturday. They're breaking ground on the new practice facility Thursday. We're podcasting Tuesday.
What does somebody wear to a groundbreaking? Asking for a friend, like what?
Sneakers.
Boots.
Yeah, boots. Hard hat.
Hey, we could. I still have my hard hat from the State Farm Stadium tour that I took in 2004
I
or whatever.
got to dig deep into the garage.
I know
There's a
right
Cardinals
where mine
hard
is.
hat in there somewhere.
I should wear mine.
Wow.
Impress.
Okay. Interesting. By the way, if Darren gets a little too haughty, with the whole climb and all that. We got a kid. He's a ringer by the name of Reese in nutrition services. Works for the Cardinals.
Whatever.
We see him every day at lunch, and he runs ultra marathons.
Yeah,
so
does.
if Darren needs to be put in
80
this place,
miles at a time,
Reese is going to come out and throw on some running shoes and leave Darren in the dust. So just to make sure he stays humble. All right, here we go. It's the rest of the week is ahead of us.
How many mock drafts do you do, Paul? Like, I know we were talking about what we do. Have you ever done mock? Do you do mock draft? Is it
a few
a
years
private
ago?
thing for you?
Guys coerced me.
hates mock
It was
drafts.
Paulie peer pressure. I got coerced into doing some of those mock drafts, and I did one, and I did one only, and it was abnormally ridiculous returns. Like, there's no way it would ever been feasible. I don't know. Somehow.
Are you trying to say you drafted awesome, but you don't want to brag about it, so you're going to humble brag about
I
it?
ended up with like the equivalent of 3 first-round picks. It made no sense because I kept trading down, and then it gave me this inordinate return. What is the margin of error in these simulators?
It doesn't
Come on.
accept trades that it doesn't deem realistic, Paul.
I waited
You
it
can't
out.
scam a team on a mock draft.
I gamed the system. It was the early ages of AI. I beat it at its
Don't
own
go
game.
there.
Can't
Paul.
spell Calvisi without
That's
AI.
it.
I do have a question.
That's
Is there
right.
any sort of update on the power poll of incompetence or the
Oh.
list of sports people we're over? What
That's
was
a
that
good
one
question.
officially titled?
Well, it's the sports people we're so done with.
We're so done with.
Yeah, so the Olympics are going on. The quad god was getting close, and then he sort of eliminated himself. No, Dani, there hasn't been anything. I don't like to force it. It has to be organic, and has to.
I respect that.
Has to be a burr under the saddle.
He's got to be mad for real.
It's got to be Lindsey Vonn.
Well, anytime the NBA All-Star game rolls around and LeBron's still on the team, that's
Whoa.
yeah, let's be honest on that one.
Anti-LeBron.
Just the slam dunk contest, the absolute circus charade that is.
He picks the one athlete who's actually somewhat close to us in age, and come on now.
You got to keep it real, keep it equal. Here on Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.